Emergency bells are ringing across every kingdom as the most shocking development in prophetic history unfolds before our eyes. The hero of legend, the one destined to unite all realms against the coming apocalypse, is literally aging in reverse, and the implications are absolutely mind-blowing. Ancient seers are collapsing in their towers, war generals are abandoning their posts, and the very foundations of everything we believed about destiny are crumbling like sandcastles in a cosmic storm. The sacred texts of fate never prepared us for this impossible scenario, and what's happening right now will change everything you thought you knew about divine prophecy. If you want to uncover the terrifying truth behind this temporal catastrophe and discover what the ancient guardians have been hiding from us for thousands of years, smash that subscribe button, hit like, and tell me in the comments if you think this backward aging is a blessing or the ultimate curse. But hold on to your seats, because what I'm about to reveal will shake you to your very core. For over 4,000 years, the great prophecy has been the cornerstone of civilization itself, carved into the eternal stones by the first prophets during the age of cosmic alignment. Every single word was considered sacred, every symbol held divine meaning, and every prediction was treated as absolute universal law. The prophecy clearly stated that the hero would emerge during the darkest hour, grow mighty through trials and tribulations, and reach his ultimate power precisely when the world needed salvation most. But nowhere, and I mean absolutely nowhere, did these ancient texts mention anything about reverse aging. The revelation struck like lightning when the hero's personal attendants noticed something impossible during his morning ritual preparations. Gareth, his most trusted bodyguard, who had served the royal bloodline for 30 years, was the first to sound the alarm. According to his sworn testimony before the High Council, the hero's reflection in the mystical mirror of true sight showed a face that was unmistakably younger than it had been just the day before. At first, they dismissed it as a trick of the light or perhaps stress-induced hallucinations, but then other signs became impossible to ignore. The hero's armor, crafted specifically for his adult proportions by the master smiths of the Dragon Forge, suddenly became loose around his shoulders and chest. His ceremonial sword, perfectly balanced for his warrior's grip, now felt heavy and unwieldy in hands that appeared to be shrinking daily. But the most alarming change was in his voice. The deep, commanding tone that could rally entire armies was gradually becoming higher, more youthful, losing the gravitas that made kingdoms bow before his words. Can you imagine the absolute panic that erupted when news of this impossible transformation reached the allied councils? The northern kingdoms, who had already mobilized 300,000 troops based on prophecy timing, suddenly found themselves questioning whether they were following a child into the greatest battle in cosmic history. King Aldrich the Bold, who had pledged his entire treasury to fund the prophesied war, was reported screaming at his advisors that he wouldn't bankrupt his realm for what appeared to be an increasingly youthful pretender to destiny. But the nightmare was just beginning, because what happened next defied every law of nature and magic known to mortal minds. The court wizards, desperate to understand this temporal anomaly, performed the ritual of chronological scrying, a forbidden divination technique that hadn't been used in over 8 centuries due to its dangerous side effects. What they discovered in their mystical visions sent 3 of them into permanent catatonic states and caused the Grand Enchanter to flee the capital in absolute terror. The scrying revealed that the hero's aging reversal wasn't random or chaotic. It was following a precise supernatural pattern that seemed to be accelerating with each passing day, initially aging backward at approximately 1 year per month. The process was now occurring at roughly 1 year per week, with some witnesses swearing they could observe the changes happening in real time during moments of high stress or magical activity. The implications were staggering. At this rate, the hero would become a helpless infant within months. The religious implications sent shockwaves through every temple, monastery, and sacred grove across the known world. The high priestess of the solar cathedral declared an unprecedented crisis of faith, stating that either the gods themselves had made a catastrophic error, or forces beyond divine comprehension were actively interfering with cosmic destiny. The ancient Druids emerged from their hidden sanctuaries for the first time in centuries, claiming their sacred trees were withering because the natural order itself was being violated by this temporal impossibility. What makes this situation even more terrifying is how the hero's regression is affecting his legendary abilities and memories. Eyewitness accounts from the palace guards describe watching in horror as combat techniques he had mastered over years of training simply vanished from his muscle memory. Magical powers that had taken decades to develop were flickering in and out of existence like dying candles. Most disturbing of all, he was beginning to forget crucial strategic knowledge about the enemy forces that only his adult experiences had provided. The enemies weren't waiting around for the hero to solve his temporal crisis, and what they were doing will absolutely shock you. The Dark Empire of Shadowmere, led by the immortal Lich King Malakar, launched a series of devastating surprise attacks across the eastern borders, taking advantage of the chaos and confusion spreading through the Allied forces. Intelligence reports suggest that Malakar himself had somehow learned about the hero's condition and was accelerating his own apocalyptic timeline, knowing that his prophesied nemesis was becoming weaker rather than stronger. But here's where the story takes an even more sinister turn that no one saw coming. Secret documents recovered from a raided shadow cult temple revealed that certain dark sorcerers had been experimenting with temporal manipulation magic for decades, specifically seeking ways to corrupt or destroy the prophesied hero before he could fulfill his destiny. Could the aging reversal be the result of a successful dark magic ritual? Were evil forces actually succeeding in unraveling the hero's timeline from within? The Oracle of the Crystal Caverns, who had remained silent for over 50 years, suddenly awakened from her meditative trance with a prophecy so terrifying that the High Council ordered it classified immediately. According to leaked fragments, she spoke of a great undoing, where time itself would begin flowing backward, not just for the hero but for all of reality, eventually reducing the entire universe to primordial chaos. Is the hero's regression the first sign of universal temporal collapse? The political ramifications were beyond catastrophic. The Grand Alliance, painstakingly built over decades of negotiation and mutual trust, began fracturing as kingdoms withdrew their support for what they saw as a cursed or false hero. Queen Seraphina of the Crystal Shores publicly declared that her naval forces would no longer take orders from someone who appeared to be a teenager. Regardless of prophetic claims, the Merchant Guild suspended all war funding, and several smaller kingdoms began negotiating secret peace treaties with the Dark Empire. But the most disturbing development came from the hero's own inner circle, where something unthinkable was happening. His closest advisors and childhood friends reported that he was not only becoming physically younger, but also exhibiting personality changes consistent with his regressed age. The mature judgment and wisdom that had marked his rise to legendary status were gradually being replaced by the impulsiveness and emotional instability of youth. How could someone with a teenage mind make decisions that would determine the fate of all existence? The temporal disturbance was spreading beyond just the hero himself, creating ripple effects that threatened the stability of reality. Farmers reported crops aging backward into seeds before disappearing entirely. Ancient monuments were showing signs of temporal erosion, with stones appearing newer, while inscriptions became less defined. Some elderly scholars claimed to be experiencing moments of mental clarity from their youth, while young people complained of suddenly feeling the weight of years they hadn't yet lived. In desperation, the Council of Archmages attempted the most dangerous magical ritual in recorded history, the Chronos Binding Spell, designed to anchor the hero's timeline and halt his regression. The ritual required the life force of 13 grand wizards and the sacrifice of 3 ancient dragons. But when they completed the ceremony, something went horribly wrong. Instead of stopping the aging reversal, the spell seemed to accelerate it dramatically, and the hero visibly aged backwards several years in the span of a single night. The failure of the Chronos binding revealed a terrifying truth that changed everything the magical community thought they knew about temporal manipulation. According to the surviving Archmage Cornelius, the hero's regression wasn't being caused by external forces at all. It was originating from within his very essence, as if his soul itself was rejecting the forward flow of time. This suggested that the aging reversal might be connected to the hero's divine nature, possibly a cosmic safeguard mechanism that no mortal magic could overcome or control. Archaeological expeditions to the most ancient ruins suddenly took on urgent importance as scholars desperately searched for any reference to similar phenomena in prehistory. What they discovered in the sunken cities beneath the whispering desert will haunt your nightmares. Carved tablets depicted previous heroes in different cosmic cycles, and several showed clear images of warriors becoming younger during their final battles. These ancient civilizations had apparently faced the same temporal curse, and according to the hieroglyphs, none of those heroes had survived to complete their destinies. The economic collapse that followed these revelations was swift and merciless. Trade routes shut down, as merchants refused to transport goods through regions that might be affected by temporal anomalies. The value of gold and precious metals plummeted as people hoarded food and practical supplies, believing that currency would be worthless if reality itself was unraveling. Entire cities emptied as populations fled to remote areas, hoping to escape whatever cosmic catastrophe was approaching. But perhaps the most heart-wrenching aspect of this entire crisis was how it affected the hero himself. Palace servants reported finding him alone in his chambers, staring at portraits of his adult self and trying desperately to remember the man he used to be. His teenage mind struggled to comprehend the vast responsibilities that his adult self had accepted, creating an internal conflict between youthful innocence and cosmic duty that was tearing his very identity apart. The question that haunted everyone was becoming more urgent with each passing day. What would happen when the hero became too young to even understand his own destiny? Would his divine purpose transfer to someone else, or would the universe simply accept defeat against the forces of darkness? The prophecies had promised a savior, but they never explained what would happen if that savior literally vanished into the innocence of childhood before the final battle could begin. Religious scholars working around the clock discovered fragments of even more. Ancient texts suggesting that the hero's regression might be part of a cosmic cycle so vast that mortal minds couldn't comprehend its true purpose. These texts hinted at the possibility that aging backward was actually a preparation phase, allowing the hero to access powers and perspectives that only innocence could provide. But they also warned of the ultimate price. Complete regression might mean losing all memory of his adult life and mission, leaving him as nothing more than a confused child with godlike abilities. The final revelation came from the most unexpected source imaginable, the hero's own dreams. Court psychics monitoring his sleep patterns discovered that during his nightmares, he was experiencing visions of his future regression, watching himself become younger and younger until he completely disappeared from existence. But in these same dreams, just before vanishing entirely, he witnessed a version of himself that was somehow both ancient and newborn, wielding powers that transcended time itself. As we watch this unprecedented crisis unfold, the ultimate question remains unanswered. Is the hero's backward aging the key to unlocking his true cosmic potential? Or are we witnessing the tragic failure of destiny itself? With each day bringing new revelations and deeper mysteries, one thing is certain: the fate of all reality hangs in the balance of a hero who is rapidly running out of time in the most literal sense possible. What do you think is the real reason behind the hero's age regression? Is this part of an ancient cosmic plan, or is reality itself breaking down? Share your theories in the comments below, and make sure to subscribe for more shocking updates about this temporal crisis that's reshaping the very nature of prophecy.